Peace. Just waiting for pieces. Hey everyone. Good afternoon. Hey Juju.
Mommy, I can't find a place to plug it.
I don't know what to tell you, Mama.
What if I plug it over there?
You could go to the bedroom.
The room?
Yeah, but it's gonna be hot.
Daddy.
Hi. This is reality. I'm still a mom. Even during a live. I hope everybody's doing well. Oh, thank you. All right, so this is like my real first live. Okay, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Peace.
I'm telling you, I'm really an analog girl that has to be forced to learn technology. Everyone. Um,
Oh well, you better be ready.
I know, right? The way the world is
We
going.
we ain't going backwards.
I know. Peace, Saladin. How you doing?
Excellent. It's 86 degrees out here,
Uh,
and it's nice and pleasant.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
I
just
appreciate you having me on too.
Of course. I'm just letting it a couple more minutes so other people could come along on the live if they choose to. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So what inspired you to do this
wait,
dope
wait.
dads need dads campaign?
Who's asking the questions here?
I know, but I'm just saying though. I'm just saying that's just something I wanted to know.
Okay, before we get started, the reason why I started Dope Moms Need Dope Moms was in the year of 2004, 2013, I found out that I was pregnant.
Uh-huh.
And in that journey, I realized like, wow, I culturally wasn't mothered into what it means to be a mother. And I technically didn't have my mother there to mother me through the process. Even though I have my physical mother still alive with me, I didn't have her physically there to mother me through the process. So that was um, what kind of inspired the Dope Moms Need Dope Moms. And seeing how other people from my community came who are mothers that mothered me along the way and even now. And then also it plays on the word of doula, which means mothering the mother.
Ah.
Yeah. So I was like, dope moms need dope moms because it's child rearing and in the, you know, the African community, the Black community, that's the goal. And I'm from the era where if I went to school late, the cross guard went to go tell my mother that I went to school late before the school called so I'm part of that community. So basically that's what it is. Dope moms need dope
Yeah.
moms. And I never want to forget the element of fathers too. So that's why I wanted to do this and kind of like bring some reality to some Black men that are doing amazing things. So, Saladin, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm a Capricorn. I like long walks in the park. I read 15th century Italian poetry, and I'm single.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I'm just messing with you. Um, I'm a father first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also an educator, an author, and not just an activist, but I say an artivist
Mm-hmm.
because I'm also a creative and I strive to use poetry or my writings or the music that I create or the animation that I create as a form of activism in order to inspire minds, especially youth, in order to help set them on the proper trajectory so that they could be the type of adults that we would like to see inherit in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the short of it, but
I'm sorry.
that's a
I
little
am so
about
sorry.
me.
Factor. Again, like I mentioned earlier before you came in, I'm still a mom.
That's all good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyways, um, how old are your children?
Okay, so my two eldest queens that I have, one is 25,
Hmm.
and then my other one, I know I don't look it, y'all, but I told you I was gonna be ignorant today, didn't I?
Go ahead, Saladin.
Yeah. Okay. So my eldest, Asia, she's 25. She graduated from Howard University,
Woo-hoo.
and she went and got her master's degree.
Mm.
Um, and she's a forensic psychologist.
Okay.
So that's what she does. My middle daughter, Aziza, she also graduated from Howard.
Woo-hoo.
And she got accepted to the University of Maryland for a full paid program for her to earn her doctorate degree. So she
Wow.
graduated from Howard as a chemist, and she's going to get her doctor's degree in pharmaceutical science.
Wow. Wow. That's
So
amazing.
my eldest queens, like they're amazing. You
Okay.
know, my eldest Asia, she studied in Jerusalem, in that area. She
Hmm.
studied like the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. So she stayed there for a little time to study that and how it actually affects children in that environment. And then my middle daughter, Aziza, she stayed in South Africa for a month
Oh, wow.
studying the Ebola virus. Right. So, and then I have my youngest, Anusha. She's going to be 2 years old in November.
Hmm.
And she is something else as well.
Okay. So it's in the
So,
genes.
oh yeah, I mean, their mother was smart enough to choose me, you know.
Hmm.
But I'm thankful to be blessed to have young queens, to have daughters.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Hmm.
And one of the things that being a father that I thought about before I had children is I had some anxiety, like, oh my goodness, what I'm going to show them, what I'm going to teach them, and but I realized that wow, they're a step ahead of me in terms of their growth and development. And there's a lot of things that they were already able to understand and actualize in their process that took me years to be able to figure out.
Right. 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 Right.
So even though I have a parent-child dynamic, I'm also a coach. I also give them advice and guidance in that kind of way. And they're much more evolved than I ever was at that
Right.
age. And I'm thankful for that, because I'm learning a lot from them at the same time.
Right. 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 So I think that's a good way to seg into the next question, which is when were you introduced to fatherhood
Through my father.
through your father? Okay.
Yeah. And my father is amazing. Like, he set the foundation and a template for me. I mean, I could talk on and on and on about the various different just principles in life that he shared with me. One of the things that he showed me is that you could be strong enough to be gentle at the same time.
Mm, mm,
And that is not a sign of weakness. Like, my father cries,
mm.
my mother passed away in 1995. And when he's talking about their relationship, um, he's emotional,
Mhm.
you know? Um, so he obviously passed that on to me, right?
Mhm.
Um, but another thing is he always stressed the importance of communication. So every night, I have six other siblings, and I have twin brothers who are closest in age. Every night before we went to bed, we would have to give our father a handshake and tell him that we loved him.
Mm.
That was a standard in my household.
Right, right.
He also collected African artifacts and taught us a lot about our classical and ancient ancestry. So we didn't grow up with the mindset of thinking that our story began in slavery.
Right.
We had a totally different perspective culturally because of the way he laid that type of foundation. I also have Tuscarora ancestry, so we spent a lot of time on the Tuscarora reservation
Mhm.
learning about those customs and cultural contributions to our people as well.
Mhm.
Um, he also stressed the importance of making sure you have a job,
Mhm.
a business, and a hustle on the side. And when I say hustle, I'm talking about legal hustle.
Mhm.
So by trade, he's a painter. So he worked with our city for many years and he retired as a painter for the city. But during the summertime, he would set up projects painting homes, at least 2 homes a year during the summertime. And he would employ us as his children to actually work.
Mhm.
Not only would he employ us, but he would employ our peers as well to be able to work. And I'm talking about, I'm 12 years old getting $5 an hour
Mhm.
painting homes in the summertime. So he was a father also to the fatherless. And he set that foundation. And that's something that gave me a greater insight into the type of father that I need to be and things that I could even add on to continue that legacy. It's something that you mentioned earlier about motherhood. And it's interesting when you look at this Western society, how when you look at the different stages of a person's life cycle, a lot of times they denote important transitions that are arbitrary. So, for example, when you get a certain age, you can drink now. When you get a certain age, you can smoke now. You can get a certain age, you can drive a vehicle. And in some of those instances, they actually provide training for you to get a license to do certain things. But when you think about stuff as important as parenthood,
Mhm.
there's usually no rites of passage or no real model. And sometimes you are left to your own devices to figure out things
Yes.
on your own.
Mhm.
And generations, one of the things that I've started to realize is you start to see even more of a distance between one generation to the next. So you have to reach a little bit further back in order to gain access to certain principles and values for you to actually figure certain things out as you grow and you develop. So I'm thankful not only to have that type of father that laid that foundation, but to also to see
Glory,
the dynamic between him.
back up. Don't do that, please. Go. No, move away from it, please. Pardon me.
uh,
Pardon me.
at least you know, like you see how my 18-month-old be doing. Soon as I get on a presentation to do something, she be all over the place.
Yes.
Last time she was on that presentation, she grabbed my dang beard cream and was putting it in her hair. So I learned something in that sense. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I screw the top on tight
Right.
and put it in a place that she can't reach
Right.
it,
Right.
because she be on 100, when I got my attention in doing something.
Right.
But going back to what I was saying, I'm thankful to have that type of father that showed me not only that it's okay to be strong enough to be gentle, but also different elements of fatherhood and of manhood that I didn't have to go look around to strive to put things together and figure things
Right.
out for myself.
Mhm.
And then also I learned the dynamic between him and my mother, how to relate.
Mhm.
One of the things that I definitely learned is my mother, she's a social psychologist,
Mhm.
right? So being a black woman, once you have access to other different resources or things that can amplify who you already are as a black woman, that's like putting nitrogen in a Lamborghini. You already fast, but when you add that to it, so my mother was super swift. She was like the Oracle on the Matrix with Richard Pryor's sense of humor. So she was so sharp that I also had the opportunity to see how my father interacts with that level of
Right.
sharpness,
Right. Right.
right?
Mhm.
Because one of the things, even amongst peers that I see that are my age and then younger brothers or older brothers, you really get a chance to see the type of family dynamics that they had by how they treat their own peers or their female counterparts or their brothers,
Right. Right.
because their household really set that type of foundation. So I learned a lot in terms of my responsibility and perspective as a man and as a father, and then also how to interact with a female counterpart.
Hmm.
And I seen that through my parents. You know, some things I agree with as you know as I am right now, but other things I'm like, nah, because my father because he's a tradesman, and my mother, like I told you, she was a social psychologist. He could not match wits with her
Mm.
at all, at all. He could not go back and forth.
Hmm. Hmm.
So his finishing move out of his repertoire is to just close his mouth and turn around and walk out. That's how he was able, because he couldn't match wits with
Right,
her.
right, right.
You know what I'm saying? So you know, it's a lot that I learned,
Okay.
you know, through him. You know, even to this day, he's 79 right now,
Hmm.
and I still learn a lot through him.
That's great. So where were you? Were you there for the birth of your children?
Yes, especially for my first one.
Okay.
My second two, they came like thieves in the night.
Okay. Can you kind of briefly
So,
explain like how they were the same or different?
um, my first one, I was right there and I seen everything. And I'm gonna tell you, one thing that I learned in that experience is it humbled me as a man.
Mm.
And it humbled me as a man because when I saw my eldest daughter, she was 9 pounds. When she came out and I saw her coming out,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, for any man to think that they're doing anything in a bedroom with a woman, and we have some kind of capacity, that is one of the biggest lies and illusions that we can ever have. You know? So when I seen it, it was humbling, and I'm like, oh my God, I might have been lied to all of this time.
Right, 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 right.
So I realized that you can only do ultimately what a woman actually allows you to do. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when my eldest was first born, she obviously heard my voice outside of the womb and everything. But the first word that I whispered in her ear when she was born is Queen.
Mm.
And that has been a consistent theme that I've consistently reinforced their entire lives,
Mm. Mm.
right? My second queen, Aziza, I came after she was born because, like I said, she came as like a thief in the night, right? And she was born. Some people may be familiar with the idea of she was born with a veil.
Mm. Okay.
So that is how she's been her entire life. You
Mm.
know, she's always had a presence about her that she's been here before.
Right.
And there's something familiar about being on this physical plane, right? My youngest queen, Anusha,
Mm-hmm.
she came running. So what was unique about her birth is my first two queens were born in a hospital setting. And I told myself that my next children, I wanted them to be born at home. I wanted it to be a home birth. I wanted to be in a place that was much more comfortable,
Right.
that is our own,
Mm-hmm.
right? So she's born that way. I actually was able to, one of my sisters is a doula. So I hired her so that she could be a part of the process. We also had a midwife, but she wasn't a black midwife,
Okay.
which I wish that, you know, we had, but she was still really good at what it is that she did. But, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there is really a huge disparity in black midwives,
Yes.
right? So we made sure that that was a process, and it was much more of um, a natural entrance for her into this world.
Mm-hmm.
So there were three different experiences. One of the things that has always been the same with all of my queens is introducing them to literacy as early as possible, putting books in their hands, them seeing me reading, you know, and making sure that in this stage of their growth and development or their formative years that I am in a position to construct their brain architecture in a way that sets them on a type of trajectory to be the type of queens that this world needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with that, how would you add on in saying what are the essentials of being a father?
Wow. So I think that there's certain axioms or universal principles and values that are necessary. And one thing is, like I mentioned, that I learned through my father is that you have to be strong enough to be gentle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And as males, men, especially black men in this society, um, we grow up in a male box. And in that male box, there are certain stereotypes and ideas that are expected of us. And a lot of that has to deal with emotional intelligence, meaning most of us are never taught how to recognize and identify and to manage our
Right,
emotions,
right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the same emotions as women do, but we're not taught to express it or learn to even manage it at all. We keep it bottled up
Right,
and we don't share what we're feeling or the things that we're actually experiencing because we look at that as a sign of weakness.
right,
I was never taught that from my father. And I don't know if he realized that he was teaching me emotional intelligence, but that's one of the things that I actually learned, that it's okay to cry.
right. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to express yourself in various different ways. And as we both know, when you're not able to express yourself in that way, it has a physiological effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That type of stress and that type of burden, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with why our lifespan is much shorter,
Right. Exactly.
not only as males or as men, but also as black men in this society, because we deal with a lot, and a lot of times we don't create the type of safe spaces in order to discuss certain things and to express what we're genuinely feeling.
Right.
And we walk around all the time and just act like everything's straight. Nah, everything ain't straight all the time.
Right.
But you have to be able to have those type of safe spaces to be able to experience that and express it and to bring some closure to it,
Right.
you
Exactly.
know? And a lot of times, because of that, a lot of us are walking around like ticking time bombs. You know what I'm saying? So in terms of essentials, emotional intelligence is something that is essential.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being strong enough to be gentle at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and all of that misogynistic, chauvinistic, machismo stuff that some of these dudes got going on, a lot of times that's being used to mask an insecurity or frailty that they're afraid to even confront.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's one of the foundations in terms of fatherhood, because if you have those considerations and those skills, you're able to share that with the next generation, especially these boys.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Another thing is you have to be community minded. You have to be able to consider those beyond just yourself personally. You know, we live in a kind of society that promotes rugged individualism and capitalism and everything else. And you got a lot of people who, even in their language, think about, I'm just going to do me, or it's all about me and mine. And what that does is it fragments you or disconnects you to the greater community, which are there to help support your growth and development.
Right.
And basically, you're putting yourself out there on an island. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's one of the things that I also learned from my father, is that you have to be conscious not only of your family unit, but also of the community.
Right.
What you can do to contribute to the other collective families that make up a community.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a family is just really the seminal unit of a community, and you have to be instrumental in making sure that you are in a position to also be a father to the fatherless.
Right.
That it's not just about you and yours, but you have to think about others, because your children are going to have peers. What you going to do? Act like you ain't going to teach them to?
Right. Right. Right.
Nah, you should be a guide to them as well.
Exactly.
And think about the importance of being in that responsible position.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So those are two primary things that I think are important. And as individuals, everybody's going to have their own unique set of challenges when it comes to being able to do what is necessary to be an actual father,
Right.
right? And for example, my two eldest queens, when they were adolescents, their mother moved out of state. So she moved to an area that's right outside of Pennsylvania. That put a lot of stress on our ability to co-parent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at no time did I ever use that as an excuse that this is why I don't have the relationship that I should have with my children.
Amen.
Hell no.
Amen.
No. I never did nothing like that. And some people may think this is crazy, but if your children live 6 hours away, if your relationship is important to them, you should be willing to drive 6 hours just to spend 2 hours with them. Now, some people may say, oh, nah, I ain't going to do that. Okay, those children are going to be young adults and adults one day.
Right.
They are going to assess their relationship based upon your effort.
Right.
And if you're not putting forth any effort or any time, there is no way to justify or to explain that.
Or even their
No
value
way.
as they grow up. They might put value upon who they are on the amount of time or effort you put in the relationship with your children.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And think that that is what they should be looking for in a companion.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So that put a lot of stress on the relationship, but I made sure that I did everything and all within my power to maintain that relationship under those difficult circumstances.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, my queens and I, we have a beautiful relationship. You know what I'm saying? But I had to make sure that my effort and my investment in them and our relationship was of the highest value and of importance.
Right.
You know? So one of the things that I was telling the brothers is, because they were sitting there complaining like, yeah, she's doing this and she's doing that. And I said, you know, there's a fine line between alienation and neglect. It's a fine line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really your effort that's going to determine that difference between whether it is alienation and whether it is neglect. And you don't ever want your children to grow up and question your effort,
Mm-hmm.
which is ultimately questioning your value and importance, which consequently makes them question their value and importance.
Exactly.
You never want that to be questionable, you know, and I made sure that that was never questionable with my queens, even though it was challenging when their mother moved into another area, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
What words would you say of encouragement of like, how can you, as a Black man, how can you maximize your singleness? Because in this era and the era before us, it's always like, do whatever you got to do, have as much women as you want, sleep as many, you know, like, it doesn't matter, you have a whole bunch of kids. So what would you say different from that? Like, in your singleness, how can you to the Black man, how can you maximize your singleness?
number one, not be out here having a bunch of sex, because that does not make you a man or masculine. And some guys are out here doing it.
Right.
Because they're insecure about their manhood or their masculinity. And sometimes it's because at a young age, they may have had some experiences that they're not going to tell nobody about, if you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They may have had some experiences that they're going to carry to the grave with them. And since they had those experiences, it makes them question their manhood or masculinity.
Right.
So in order for them to feel better about themselves, they may go on this hunt, because that's exactly what they're doing, to get as many women as possible because they think that it'll help them feel better about their manhood and their masculinity, you know. So that's one thing, not to be out here, especially if you ain't got nothing to offer nobody but some sex. Don't be out here trying to, you know, because now you're putting yourself in a situation where there's going to be a level of expectancy on other different things. And some of our brothers out here can't even have a conversation.
Right.
No? But then on the flip side, some women are accepting that. They may want is some sex,
Hmm.
and they don't really care if dudes to have a logical conversation with them. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
But that's one thing. As a male or as a man, we have to invest in ourselves to the point where we have a sense of wholeness, so that when we meet somebody, we're not looking for a half. Because if you're looking for a half, that means you're half, and you want somebody to make you whole.
Right.
So you end up meeting a male content, somebody that regardless of what you do or how much time or energy you put into something, nothing can satisfy them. You're going to end up running on that hamster wheel like Forrest
And
Gump for the
always
rest
be
of your life.
disappointed.
Exactly. So you don't want to take on something like that and trying to fill some hole that can't be filled
Right.
from somebody because you stepping into a situation because you're half of a person too.
Right. Right.
So we have to really invest in ourselves, and that has nothing to do with going out here trying to get women. We have to invest in being in a position of empowerment so that we can take care of ourselves. Do you know how to cook for yourself?
Hmm.
Do you know how to pay bills? Do you have a bank account? Are you working on your credit? Are you striving to involve in purchasing property so that you are not relying on others? All of those things are important to be in a position where you can actually add on and contribute to the life of another human being. Because if you're not in a position to do that, you can only be a liability. And a lot of times there's too many people who are getting together just to lick each other's wounds.
Say that again. Say that
They're
again.
not coming together. I said a lot of people is coming together just to lick each other's wounds. They're not coming together to build no legacy or to add on one another because a lot of people don't have nothing to bring to the table.
Right.
And if all you can bring to the table is a phallus, you need to reassess who you actually are as a male and as a man.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And again, a lot of us are being encouraged to think this way because of this male box that we've been assigned when we came into this society.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So we really have to work extra hard on being able to be whole within ourselves before we're putting ourselves in a position where we striving to have some conversations with somebody.
Right.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So to me, that's what really means maximizing your singleness. And it don't have nothing to do with you out here trying to get somebody.
Right. Right. Right.
Work on ourselves first and foremost. And then align with other brothers who are working on themselves as well. You got to have a strong network of brothers that have that same type of mindset.
Mm.
So, for example, what I'm talking about right now, that's the mindset of the brothers that I roll with. We don't got no slouches around us.
Exactly.
If it's slouches, we'll speak from a distance or whatever. But if they want to come and have conversations, I'm going to check them about certain things. And I'm not
Exactly.
saying that I'm with a checklist, like writing
No, it's
stuff off.
accountability
Fine. Yeah,
with
I'm going to
love.
find a way. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But my brothers that I roll with, we ain't slouches.
Right.
We not out here neglecting our children and trying to make excuses of why we not doing this and doing that. Nah. And not paying child support and all this other stuff. And no,
Hmm.
those is not the type of I roll with.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So you got to have that type of network as well to help reinforce these type of principles of manhood and fatherhood that we want to see in the next generation.
Exactly. Sorry for the noise. Something's being installed into my apartment, so I
It's all
apologize right
right.
now. So, what is the vision that you have for your family? What do you envision, and how do you define legacy for yourself and for your family?
Well, because I'm co-parenting, a part of that vision is to be in a place where I actually have the type of relationship that is contributing to the legacy that I've already started.
Hmm.
So I'm not going into a situation like, yo, I'm thinking about this and I'm wondering about this and I hope to do this in the future. Heck no, I'm already invested in the legacy.
Hmm.
So as an author, I've published 19 books. 5 of those books are in the British Library right now in a special archive.
Hmm.
So as an author, my words will still be here when I'm gone. That has also created a legacy in a sense of residual income for my queens,
Mm.
right? Um, that is one part of my legacy. I'm also in a position right now where I acquired a property that I'm renovating into an early childhood learning center and after school program. That is also a part of my legacy that I'm invested in right
Right.
now. So I have things to bring to the table. So in terms of a partnership, I'm only interested in invested in a woman that can bring something to the table so that we can share in this legacy that I've already been invested in. So I'm not coming to nobody talking about, hey, these are my ideas and this is what I hope to do one day, because one day's not a date on a calendar.
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
sorry.
Exactly.
That's, that can happen anytime. And, as long as we have a mindset like that, there's no sense of expectancy or ambition or urgency to be able to get
Right.
that done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And
And if you set a date on a calendar and you don't meet that objective, set another date.
right. Exactly. Don't beat yourself up. Be gentle with yourself, but at least keep moving forward. Keep progressing towards that goal.
Yeah, yeah. So as good as the things that I'm talking about, I'm still a co-parent.
Hmm.
That's still a dysfunctional family relationship that I have right now, and that's something that I'm primarily working on.
Mm.
I've strived over the years, and at one point I wouldn't even date a woman. Like I wouldn't even, if a woman wanted to go out to dinner or something like that, I wouldn't even go out to dinner with a woman. Because I didn't want to create any kind of scenario where there was going to be some unreasonable expectations or anything like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm past that now, where I'm a little bit more comfortable to put myself in spaces like that.
You
But
hear that, ladies?
but 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 I'm only willing and comfortable to put myself in a space like that if I know that the time that I'm invested in this is going to be of equal or more value than the time that I'm going to invest in something else that I know that I'm going to get a return out of.
Right.
So, for example, I do animation, for families, especially children, that teaches them about different ideas and principles and values that oftentimes are not being taught to them with other different type of animations,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
I know if I invest 2 hours that I'm going to create something that is going to be a part of a legacy and of value.
Right. Right.
So if I'm looking at that on a scale and I'm looking over here at a woman, you got to have more than a big ass, or, you got to have more than, your appearance for me to want to be able to invest this 2 hours into sitting there talking to you. So I'm the type of person where I'm not going to do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Some brothers, they may not think like that. That how her appearance and what her Instagram looks like may be important to them. I don't care about that.
Hmm.
I want to know what you are actually doing in life. If you're an author or if you're a journalist or if you're a creative or if you're doing this, how can I add on to that? Because this is how I look at it. I don't want to waste your time. And I already know for a fact that I'm not gonna.
Hmm.
So that's how I feel about myself. I feel bad if I'm wasting your time. So I'm definitely not gonna allow somebody to waste my valuable time.
Right. Right.
Right. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm a little bit more flexible with my time than I was, maybe 2 years ago. I was more of a Spartan, where I'm like, yo, I'm not even looking over there, But
Okay.
I'm in a different space right now, and I'm enjoying the space that I'm actually in.
Okay. That's a good segue to the next question. How has the
Uh-huh.
current events reshaped or solidified your definition of fatherhood and parenthood as a whole?
It's been a lot of confirmation that I've been seeing in terms of the current atmosphere. Um, for example, um, I'm an educator in the school district where I live at.
Hmm.
And at the school that I teach, and this is just generally across America, Black men represent 2% of the teacher workforce.
Mm-hmm.
So just on the strength of that, I'm a Black unicorn
Mm-hmm.
in, you know, schools around the country, and especially in the school that I actually teach at. I'm the only Black man that is actually in there, right? And my school has 30% students with a learning disability. So I'm a special education teacher.
Mm-hmm.
When COVID-19 happened, our school year essentially ended in March, and we had to transition into a distance learning model,
Right.
which put more stress on families and guardians as well as communities, because now you have children who are out of the classroom, and parents are put into a situation, and school districts are put into a situation where this may be something that they've never prepared for.
Right. Right.
So what happened is it created more exposure and the ability for people to see the importance of a village being needed to raise and teach our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've already been doing that work. So it put me in a position where people were able to see more value in the things that I've consistently been doing already.
So
Not because I'm reactionary because of COVID-19,
right.
but because I'm prompted to do something. Nah, I've already been doing this work. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, some of my students, if they miss a few days, you know, in school and stuff like that, I don't just get on the phone and call and say, hey, I'm just, you know, asking if, you know, checking to see. No, I go to their house. What's going on? I'm just, you know, coming to check, you know, see what's going on. I haven't seen you in a couple of days or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain things that I've started to see just over the course of this paradigm shift that we're seeing, that I think people are really starting to understand now the importance of how many hands makes the work much lighter.
Right.
And that we all have to be invested in assisting one another,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in a place right now where I've literally been thriving.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thriving under these circumstances, you know, not only because of the things that I've consistently already been doing, but also with the animations that I've been creating, because I've had teachers and school districts utilizing those animations to help support their children and students who are in this place where they're using this distance learning model now.
Right, right.
And I did that before there was COVID-19.
Right.
So a lot of things that I've been doing have been visionary in such a way where it's kind of been prophetic in terms of making resources and things accessible to parents and guardians under circumstances like this. And I'm thankful that people have been able to utilize some of the things that I've created, such as my animations or my literature or my videos or other different things that I do. I also created an online course over a year ago to teach youth outreach development. It's a course that's self-paced, and it's on the Thinkific. That's what the actual platform is called, Thinkific. And a person can take it themselves and learn 7 different modules that I created that's related to youth outreach development. I did that over a year ago and had it available online for people. And that has been something that has been a resource to parents and guardians right now under these circumstances. So I strive to always be at the forefront of things and always researching and thinking and striving to be progressive as a thought leader and as a person that sometimes ventures into uncharted territory so that I can make a path for those who are coming behind me, especially our children.
Okay. So I guess in light of that, what, and I know this is a loaded question, but like, how would you encourage our community, our Black community as a whole, to, how you say, how can the Black family be autonomous within America?
So when you say autonomous,
Meaning like being able to exist in a world being able to exist in a world that never had intentions of us being here only for economical gain and not seeing us as humans, but us putting our value back within ourselves to be able to exist in the world like that. And how can we create our own to nurture our communities and culture and keep it as sacred?
Mommy, can I watch one?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
All
Um,
right. Okay.
Smokey Robinson had a song, and the lyrics go, if you can want, you can need. If you can need, you can care. If you can care, you can love. So I think there's a disconnect a lot of times amongst our people between true love and commitment and unity with one another and their wants, our wants. So in that process, I think in order for us to be in a space of autonomy and really believing and trusting in one another is that we have to develop relationships and see that the highest value lies in our relationships with one another. And that's difficult because we live in a Western society where relationships are not of the highest value. You know, objects are. Materialism is. Individuality is. That's of the highest value in this society. So anywhere you look around, you look on your phone, you look on television. These are the type of values that are constantly being reinforced in terms of our ideas of who we are and how we need to operate as a unit. And because of that, a lot of times we don't see homes. And sometimes we don't even see a house where people live at. We see four walls and a roof and individuals just inside of it. You know, so it's not even a house, you know, and it's definitely not a home a lot of times. So my approach as an educator is to work with children and strive to share these kind of ideas and to be a part of constructing their brain architecture in a way where it sets them on a trajectory to be those type of parents that have that type of trust and confidence and love in one another. Because a lot of times people who have been living under this Western ideology for so many years, it's going to be much more difficult for them to set a different trajectory, because when you look at the lifespan, they may have already lived 45, 50 years of thinking as an individual. And it's not a high probability for them to redirect that thinking to start doing something different. And it's not to say that it's impossible. It's to say that it's less likely because they've already been conditioned for so many years to think and to operate a certain way.
Right.
So that is to say, people who are of our peer group or younger or a little older, it's important to strive to connect with like minds or people who already have that perspective, because they're already open to the idea of working with one another and reinforcing the idea that the highest value lies within our relationships with one another. In addition to that, we have to invest in our children so that they understand that this is the type of perspective that we need to have in order for us to not just survive, but to actually thrive as a family unit.
Right.
So it requires a lot of teaching, a lot of education. And in addition to that education, it also involves advocacy. And in terms of advocacy, that is expressed in many different ways, you know, in terms of your advocacy as a midwife. That's very valuable and important, because in that position, you're able to also teach others. And like you already know, there is a huge disparity between women of color in the midwife profession as opposed to women who are classified as white or Caucasian. So just by you being a midwife and a young girl just being able to see you in that position is inspiring, because like I said, you are also going along a path that is uncharted for many people, and you're creating a path for others to come behind you. You know, that's one part of, I know, what you do in terms of advocacy, you know. But there's no real silver bullet, but the thing that is consistent, regardless of the advocacy and regardless of the education, is that we need to come back to the point as a people where we understand that the highest value lies in our relationships with one another.
Right.
And if we're working with one another or talking to one another, we do that considering that the relationship is of the highest value. It's something that you said earlier about being able to offer advice or checking, your peers or your brothers with love, right? And that is saying that you value the relationship. So you want to approach them from the perspective where it's going to be most receptive to them, because they know that you're doing it out of love and that you value that relationship. You know what I'm saying? So, and one thing I encourage people to do is to start where you are. Do what you can. If you're seeing that there's some challenges with having a better or healthier relationship with your children, strive to figure out ways that you could address that first and foremost. You don't got to go out here and strive to save the world. You start by addressing the small aspect of that world that's within your immediate cipher or within your own household.
Right. Okay.
Woo. That's a lot of wisdom and knowledge. Ugh.
Anyway, so before we close, I want you to take the time to talk about the work that you're doing currently, and how do you continue your work as an educator, anything like that. Like, what are you up to, like, currently? How can we support you? What do you like to share with us? All that.
Okay. So, like what I mentioned, I've been working in the field of education for like 20 years now. And I've been working with youth in various different capacities, from preschool age. I've taught preschool for 4 years. And then just last year, I transitioned into primary school where, like I mentioned, I'm working in the special education field. Working with youth for that long, I've done numerous projects, programs, and initiatives. And because of my experience, I've always had opportunities to work with youth. Just as of the last year and a half, I've been blessed to be able to acquire my own property. And I am renovating that property into a cultural enrichment, early childhood learning center, and after school program. In other words, I actually now have a site where I'm able to centralize all of our projects, programs, and initiatives for youth within my community. This center, this institution, is going to operate as a cooperative. And it's based upon the X-Men as a model. So those of you who are familiar with the X-Men, one of the things that you recognize with the X-Men is Professor Xavier had a property, and he used that property or that institute as a way for some of the elder mutants to be able to teach and train younger mutants how to use and control their powers. It's operating the exact same way as that model. So I have a very strong network of people who have various different skill sets and resources, and I'm going to extend to them a residency at the Atlanta School for Gifted Youngsters so that they can come and offer their expertise to the youth within my community.
That's amazing.
And like I said, this is a property that I acquired, and right now I'm in the process of renovating it, which is mostly cosmetic. So I'm restoring the kitchen because I took out all of the cabinets, and I'm redesigning the kitchen. I'm redesigning the bathroom, and according to New York State, you have to have certain standards in terms of an early childhood learning center. So I'm modifying the ground floor or the first floor to meet those standards or codes of an early childhood learning center. So that's where I'm at right now. That's what the process is. I put up a GoFundMe just recently for people to actually support, and I'm thankful for everyone who has supported already and who is continuously supporting that initiative. And that is essentially what I'm doing primarily. Like I mentioned, as an educator, we've been out of school, so I've been doing a distance learning model. School just ended probably about a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
but parents and guardians are still utilizing some of the animations that I've created that promotes literacy and reading, especially over the summer.
Right.
Because a lot of times, once children get out of school, they don't pick up another book
Mm-hmm.
until school starts again in September. So I created these digital or animation read alouds that parents and guardians and educators have been using all over the country for their students.
Okay.
And those read alouds are books that are specifically designed to teach social justice, to teach things about the importance of identity, cooperation, all of those themes that are important, especially in this day and time where we're seeing a lot of the civil unrest that's going on
Right.
across the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that I've actually been doing primarily right now. And like I said, I'm thankful to be in a position where I've been thriving under these circumstances because, you know, I've always been invested in our youth in particular, as well as our communities. And that's what it
So
is.
where's the link? Where can they find it? Is it in your bio? Where your hat?
Okay. If people go to my page, they can just click the link in my bio, and in that link, you'll see my Atlantis School renovation project, or you can just simply go straight to GoFundMe and just put in Atlantis School renovation project, and you can get all of the information on there. I have links that shows you some of my projects, programs, and initiatives, and everything that I'm doing. I also have my bio on there so that you can get more insight into some of my experiences and things that I've done over the years. And also, if you wanted to donate, you can Cash App me directly. And my name on Cash App is Saladin Allah. And then also, if you wanted to use PayPal, my email is atlantisbuild@gmail.com. So
All right.
thank you. I appreciate you, having
No,
me
I
on here.
appreciate you. Thank you for being part of my
Mhm.
quote quote my first live. Me leading it and asking the questions and stuff. So I appreciate you being the guinea pig in a sense. Yep. So I hope
Yeah.
people were blessed by, this interview and this live. And of course, I'm going to upload it. And of course, I'm going to share it with you so you can share in any platform that you desire to. But thank you so much. I'm going to chew on some of the stuff that you said today. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I told you I was going to act up, but I kind of held it down
Yes.
a little
Thank you.
bit.
I appreciate it. So, but yeah, again, everybody go to Atlantis Build on Instagram, support him in any way that you can, even if it's not monetary. Share his GoFundMe, share his page. There's several posts there, and let's definitely support somebody that's doing something, just like you have done for me in 2 days with my GoFundMe, where I was able to raise $26,000. You could do the same for him for a Black educator that has the same disparities, just like Black midwives, 2% Black males are teachers. So definitely go to his page, give him a follow, and share. If you can't give monetarily, just share it in your network. And thank you again.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
then.
you.
Peace.
All right. Peace.